This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Squarespace. Whether you need a landing page, a beautiful gallery, a professional-looking blog, or an online store, it's all included with your Squarespace website. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com. Enter the offer code VERBAL to get 10% off your very first purchase. That's Squarespace. Set your website apart.
Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrandt. The fine gentleman on the other side of the microphone, his name is Dan Rubenstein. Don't forget, as always, you can give us a holler at solidverbal@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Instagram, and of course on iTunes at itunes.com/solidverbal. Dan Rubenstein.
Here we are.
What's up, man?
A lot is up, Ty. I'm not particularly awake, but I'm also not particularly tired. I'm in a weird zone right now because we have a lot to unpack.
Yes.
We have a top four. We waited to record, obviously. Usually we record if we're going to pull the kimono apart, like our friends at Mabim Bam would say. We record generally around 11 a.m.
Yep.
We decided to wait today, so apologies if this is up later than usual. We do things for you. We have a top four. We have a top... I actually don't know have the full rankings in front of me, at least not yet. But we have a top four.
We have a top four. Let's jump right in. We do have breaking news.
Boop, 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 boop. Yep.
We do have a top four. The playoff rankings are out. They came out at 12:30 after a nice little 30-minute preamble from the fine folks at ESPN.
Better than the college basketball crew.
Fair enough. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Clemson. Number 3, Ohio State. And your number 4, drum roll, please, the Washington Huskies, Dan.
Yes.
That means Penn State is 5. Michigan is 6. Oklahoma, I didn't see this. I left before I saw it, but I would presume that Oklahoma is now 7th.
Okay.
What is your quick read on this? What's your takeaway?
My takeaway is Penn State fans are going to be upset, and I understand why they're upset. I can't fully empathize because I don't obviously feel as strongly about their being left out. I understand Michigan is upset because of how dominant they looked in a number of weeks in the Big Ten schedule and in their non-conference schedule. But my feeling is at this point, I would have been okay with Washington being 3 or 4. I would have been okay with Ohio State getting in despite not winning the conference. And I have made peace with the fact, and this is the important thing, and I've said this online and now on Wake Up College Football that we just did, the fact that the college football playoff is a separate entity than conference play.
Ah, interesting.
That is the thing that is important to remember, that nobody on the college football playoff committee designed the Big Ten divisions or designed the Pac-12 divisions or instructed teams to leave the Big 12. That this is an organization that, you can question their methods and if they got certain things right or wrong. They are tasked with finding the best 4 teams. And some people want to argue the Big Ten's the best conference. How can you leave out the champ? I understand the spirit behind that thought, but it is not their job to lock into what an organization like the Big Ten, how they structure their championship and how a team wins the conference. It is not their necessity. It is not their obligation to say, we must take this team because of this.
So let me first start by telling you how I watched this Penn State game. Because anyone listening, there are probably new listeners out there who still don't know this, but I did graduate from Penn State. I came home early from a birthday party for my wonderful little niece to watch this game as well as the Clemson game. And some friends across the street said, why don't you come over and watch the Penn State game with us? So I did. And we ended up causing a little bit of a racket. A gentleman who was a neighbor came over at one point. I'm told that he frequently has a gun on him. He just didn't this time when he told us to quiet down. So all's well that ends well. Penn State won the championship. Everyone at that particular watch party was happy. My takeaway is this. This would have been a great year for a 6-team playoff, Dan. Oh, it would have been so perfect. You can make a great case for all these teams. All right. And
you can.
as you know, and as we've said countless times here, beauty's in the eye of the beholder or the beer holder or whatever you want to call it.
I thought you were going to say beauty's in the eye of the beehole.
No.
Very different. Very different, children.
Much different. So I don't have a problem with the committee taking Washington or Ohio State. To your point, I don't like the conference championship argument. Well, you won your championship, therefore you should be in the playoff.
Right.
You're right. They're two mutually exclusive systems. This system was purposely set up to be agnostic to conferences and conference champions. If it wanted to be fair to conferences, there'd be more than 4 seats at the table. And I think it was Dan Wetzel. We tweeted this out last night. Mm-hmm. What are conferences at this point, really? They're TV networks. They're media conglomerates. For so long, we've organized ourselves around conferences and where these teams are geographically located and whatnot. That argument does not fit into this one. It doesn't work with the playoff. It was never supposed to. The other thing that I'll add, this sort of goes to my just overall logic when it comes to these things. Mm-hmm. I'm not great at picking teams, but I feel like I'm better at picking which arguments should and shouldn't apply. I don't think the conference championship argument should apply. I also don't think strength of schedule should apply.
Well, it depends how you discuss strength of schedule. I mean, talking about it in terms of like a set formula and number and rank, I'm with you. But more broadly speaking, you can look at teams' schedules and resumes and say one is definitively stronger than the other.
My point's this, and we talked about this a couple years ago when Boise State was a contender. Mm-hmm. Let's say Alabama had the 100th toughest schedule. Would that actually make them a worse team, or would it just mean that their schedule was worse?
Yeah, no, you're right. And the fact that Washington creamed a bad Oregon team and a not great and wounded Stanford team, it's not their fault. What they can control, they did. And they took care of business. And teams can sort of control non-conference. I mean, there are extremes like Baylor used to be. And obviously, when Ohio State scheduled Oklahoma relatively recently, I believe, it seemed like that was going to be a big matchup that would influence both of the teams' playoff and postseason hopes. But you never know for sure.
No.
I think you have a point.
Yeah, and if you're scheduling Portland State, that's a little different.
Yeah.
But if you're going to schedule a Power 5 team, you just never know. Look at Michigan State, look at UCLA, Oregon, Notre Dame. I mean, there are plenty of examples from the 2016 season. You just never know. What matters, though, I think, is how we apply this. To me, it's always been a data point. It's a data point that you can use to stress test a resume, but to me, it has never indicated the actual strength of a team.
They're all ingredients in a recipe.
Exactly. So with all that being said, and I say this as a proud Penn State alum, Dan, I think Washington's got better balance. I think they're the better team. The only place where I think I disagree with you, and maybe I misread the tweet.
That's fine.
Last night, you offered some commentary that you thought Washington in the playoff was more interesting than Penn State. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. And the reason it is to me is if you look at certain metrics and you look at their schedule, and again, this is not a big strength of schedule thing, the Pac-12 requires more depth of decent teams than the Big Ten. Big Ten is 100% stronger at the top. But I don't think the Pac-12 at relative health has Rutgers, Maryland, Purdue, Illinois, even what Michigan State put on the field this year. I don't think the Pac-12 has that. And that's my opinion, and that is somebody who has watched a lot of both of these conferences, but I think the bottom of the Big Ten is weaker than the bottom of the Pac-12. That said, I also think that Washington, even as they're consistent now with a couple of key injuries on defense in the final S&P Plus metrics, however much weight you put into that sort of opponent and situation adjusted success rate stuff, they're a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, which is not quite where Penn State is right now.
I would agree with those metrics.
Yeah.
I think you make a really strong case for Washington being deserving of being in the playoff. What I'm talking about, though, is in terms of pure interest. And from that standpoint, just from a completely subjective standpoint, what is an interesting storyline? Bar none, Penn State would have been more interesting because they would have come in viewed as an extreme underdog, a total outsider. You know, they would kind of have this feel of a basketball team that rides a heater into the Final Four.
Yeah.
That story has, I think, a lot more pop in a football sense than it might even in a basketball sense. And because this is a historic blue blood program with a lot of recent controversy, That would have made this a lot more interesting, especially here, maybe a little East Coast bias creeping in. Penn State as a talking point would have had a lot more gravity than Washington versus Alabama.
You're not wrong, and it's difficult to drum up attention in the Pac-12, especially in a down year at the top when you don't have Oregon or Stanford
you're right.
or UCLA competing at a high level. And that's, again, of no fault of Washington's. That's just the context, and you had the big year in the Big Ten and the fun teams at the top. The other thing I would argue is from a pure football standpoint, and I would argue that we tend to have listeners who skew nerdier with college football, right? I don't think we have...
Well, just look at us. So, yeah.
Yes. I think people are dorks like us.
Yep.
I think there is a recognition among the dorkier sect of college football fans who are, this is a mainstream event, the college football playoff. But the more diehards, I think, see Washington as having a better chance to make four-quarter noise against any of these teams, wherever they could have ended up, than Penn State.
Washington, top 10 offense, top 10 defense. I'm with you. I'm fine with this pick. Would have been very curious to see a true vertical threat in Penn State against Alabama, just to see how that shakes out. I don't trust Trace McSorley's arm against an Alabama defense, one that's that fast. However, I haven't trusted him all year, and I've got a call I'm going to play here in a few minutes, which basically points out the reverse jinx of Trace McSorley throughout the second half of the season.
Do you think it's a better playoff with Washington or Penn State?
I think they got the right four teams.
Okay.
I think they got the right four teams.
It's a bitter pill for Penn State fans, and it's not going to mean all that much at the moment. And by the way, if you want to play breaking news, Ty.
Breaking news again, but I don't know what the news is.
It's actually breaking news. Penn State's going to be taking on USC in the Rose Bowl.
Oh, there it is.
So there's that. Oklahoma, Auburn in the Sugar Bowl.
Okay.
Which hopefully we have a healthy Auburn on offense.
Okay.
Wisconsin and Western Michigan in the Cotton.
Okay.
It's pretty fun. I mean, all things, these are a number of teams that we did not see coming either before the season or even at the beginning of the season.
Wisconsin, Western Michigan might be the lowest rated Cotton Bowl of all time.
It's not going to do well. But that, you know what? We're coming at this from a happiness for college football teams and their fans. Florida State, Michigan in the Orange Bowl.
Ooh,
Florida State and Michigan I think there's a very good case that they'll be going into 2017 with a ton of momentum. So
yeah, wow.
We have 3.5 fun college football situations.
Absolutely. All right. One final point here before we get to reverbs and we actually dive into some of these games to talk about what happened.
Yeah.
What is it, if anything? This is like the question that's all the rage right now because we're debating strength of schedule. We're debating conference championships and head-to-head matchups during the regular season in the case of Michigan. What is it that we learned from all this? What is the takeaway here? Because everyone's trying to project forward how they can give their teams, how they can give their conferences a better chance in 2017 and beyond. Do we learn anything from this, Dan?
Yeah, you want me to give you a really bad answer?
Sure. This whole show's a bad answer.
That's basically that's my brand. Win your games.
Yeah.
Don't lose 2 games. And listen, I say that as somebody who has thoroughly enjoyed watching Penn State all year long, that is so happy to be proven wrong by doubting this offensive evolution, the offensive line improving dramatically, the defense surviving without Bob Shoop. But they scheduled a really solid non-conference slate in Pitt and Temple. They beat the American champion in Temple, who I don't know if you are still respecting as a team, program, and entity. But you can't lose twice.
No.
And I don't know, you got to schedule somebody in the non-conference, and you can't lose a dumb game. Michigan lost a dumb game. Penn State lost a reasonable game to Pitt, and Michigan losing to Iowa on the road is reasonable, but you can't lose by 39.
That's it. That's the sticker, man, right there.
Showing yourself to be less than competitive against a very good team it's just killer.
That's my thing. Don't lose more than once. If you're gonna, make sure you don't get blown out. That's what did Penn State, and you're right.
It's a different Penn State team. I get it.
They lost to a very good Pitt team, but they played dumb in that game. It was a different team, but if you compare that performance to what we saw last night, it's like night and day.
And it wasn't 3 years ago. It was not in 2014. This was a game that happened in mid-September.
Absolutely. Well, they've got 18 starters coming back next year. They should have a pretty good crack at a repeat here in the Big Ten. We did get a ton of calls from not only Penn State fans, but conference and college football fans all throughout the great U.S. of A. Our good friend Taylor from Talkin' Terps has been a loyal zealot for the Verbal all year. He's put these together for us. He has asked very kindly that people not stop calling in, that people continue to call in all throughout bowl season, and we'll put together one batch of these at some point over the next couple of weeks. But here you go, your conference championship week reverbs. Have a listen.
Hey, this is Aaron in Brooklyn.
And this is Aaron in Brooklyn.
We're watching the SEC title game, and we just got one thing to say. Stop! He's already dead!
Hey, this is PSU Optimist checking in from Northtown, Pennsylvania.
This is Robbie from Georgia.
This is Mike calling from the Oakland International Airport.
Hi, Dan and Ty. It's Robert calling from Bermuda.
You gotta love Championship Saturday because we show players just how much their compensation is worth by giving the same thing to two Rubes chest passing footballs into giant soda cans.
Penn State is your Big Ten 2016 Conference champions. That's right. All those people on game day saying Wisconsin gonna win. No.
I'm pretty drunk, but I'm pretty sure I just watched Penn State win the Big Ten championship.
Congratulations to James Franklin for becoming the first ever glasses-wearing hot dog to win the Big Ten.
I've got a question for Dan. Are you who, quote-unquote, we are?
Grant Haley, Ice Man.
I like how we all just glaze over the fact that Wisconsin's touchdown song is about a cow who basically burns down an entire town.
I like how Fox has Matt Leinart and Brady Quinn on at halftime as a reminder to not take any college quarterback's performance too seriously.
And I just want to give Pitt a shout out for beating two of the Power 5 conference champions.
Now, usually Alabama crockpots its opponents, but due to the particular species involved, I think we can call this a gator potting. Roll Tide.
And realizing very quickly tonight, after watching the thumping that Florida took, that the SEC East is the LFO of college conferences.
Oh my goodness, Florida just climbed Mount Everest. I mean, they scored a touchdown on Alabama.
What was your favorite Florida extra point?
I'm concerned that Nick Saban has discovered a Lazarus pit because he keeps getting these running backs.
Washington's back, and we want Bama.
Colorado-Washington last night is what happens when you bring a Big 12 knife to a Pac-10 gunfight. Go Dogs.
I can't wait for the college football playoff to change it so there are no more championship games, and the Big Ten will just be like, oh, guys, come on, we just got this last year, now you're gonna, oh, come on.
Hey, look at that. Baylor's not doing half bad in this game. If they keep this up, they might be able to get something going, and nope, everything's on fire now.
And I was wondering if anybody actually realized that TCU and Kansas State are actually playing a football game right now.
At the end of the college football season, basically. The bad news is that there's no more fun-filled Saturdays full of college football. That's it. There's no other news.
That's it. No other news. Thank you so much for calling in. Those are great calls.
Yes.
408-VERBAL-1 is the phone number. Don't forget to give us a holler as you're watching bowl games. Believe it or not, Dan and I have actually done a little long-range planning.
Wow.
Might be the first time in like 9 full seasons that we've done this, but we have a plan. We're going to talk about all the bowl games. We're going to try and split them up, and we'll be with you twice a week. I guess through the national championship, we're going down to Tampa to talk to some media types and preview the game.
Hot content, Ty.
That's right. We did get one other phone call, which I mentioned earlier.
Was it from the Taiwanese president?
No.
Okay, just
here it is. Have a listen.
Cool. Got to be careful.
So how about 2016 as the year of the secretly great jinx and reverse jinx? Not only does Dan lock Notre Dame out of bowl eligibility, but Todd told us all about Trace McSorley's pop gun arm. And then who in December led the nation in yards per completion and set the Big Ten title game passing yards record? Y'all are wizards. We just need to figure out which one of you is Potter and which one is Voldemort.
Potter and Voldemort. There you go.
The Illuminati.
That's it, man. Okay. Let's pay some bills and let's jump in. SeatGeek. The smartest, easiest way to find tickets for the football games you want to see up close and in person. This bowl season, there are going to be bowl games coming out soon. You can find tickets.
And deals on those bowl games.
Yeah, man, a lot of deals, depending on what bowl you're trying to get into.
Sure.
Nothing like being in the stadium for a good bowl game. It's actually a ton of fun. Great tailgating scene.
Yeah.
Everyone's usually in a pretty good mood. With SeatGeek, it's never been easier to get guaranteed seats you want for great value. We've got the app on our phone. We've had people tweet in about having the app on their phone. It's simple. You get the best deal on every ticket. What they do is they compare multiple ticket sites. They aggregate all that information. They give you the best possible price out there. Not only that, but they grade it. So they basically tell you up front, this is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Every SeatGeek ticket is backed by a 100% guarantee. So you can also shop with confidence. Best of all, if you are a Solid Verbal listener, you can now get a $20 rebate off your very first SeatGeek purchase. In order to get that rebate, all you need to do is download the free SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab, click add promo code, enter our promo code, which is SOLID, SOLID. And quite simply, SeatGeek's going to send you $20 after you make your first purchase.
Hell of a deal.
So download SeatGeek, enter our promo code SOLID today.
Do it.
Where should we start?
Let's start just because the theme has been such strong Big Ten. That was me popping my water bottle closed. Let's go Penn State, Wisconsin.
Penn State, Wisconsin, your final score, 38-31. If you didn't see it, it was a classic Gus Johnson game. You just knew it was going to tighten up.
Right into the weirdly inappropriate ending. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the contrast in this game was the first half versus the second half. And it was drastic. At one point, Wisconsin was up 28-7 in the first half. They seemed to be in complete and total control. Like up until, I want to say 5 minutes or so in the first half, they were up 28-7. The missing link for them was always offense, right? And in this game, they were dominant. We saw Bart Houston play the entire game at quarterback. I thought he looked pretty good, made some good throws. Corey Clement also played an outstanding game. You know, he's a downhill runner. I felt like we saw some moves from him in this game that we don't normally see. He really seemed to be performing at a high level. Also, in addition to what they did on offense, Wisconsin almost completely negated Penn State's rushing attack. They couldn't use Trace McSorley on the ground. His longest run all game really was like 3 yards. Saquon had a good game, but in a vacuum, not the kind of game that's single-handedly going to beat you. Things to that point, Dan, looked like they were going very strongly in the direction of a dominant win for Wisconsin, right?
And what did we say? I mean, we are mostly always wrong, but what did we say was going to be the key type of play that would decide this game?
The deep ball, I believe?
It would just be, explosive plays in general with two good defenses that turn other teams over. If you look at the pure raw numbers, especially in the first half, but overall, Wisconsin didn't turn the ball over. They weren't overly penalized. They were able to completely shut down Penn State and a very talented Saquon Barkley, albeit wounded Saquon Barkley. Bart Houston was efficient, didn't turn the ball over. They put up a number of yards. They were better on third down than Penn State. But Penn State's ability to generate plays downfield and just take the wind out of Wisconsin's sails. I think it was their first 3 drives in the second half were touchdowns. Like just to one after the other, that wore down Penn State's defense, Wisconsin's defense and demoralized them. That was the difference.
Since Penn State's renaissance after that Michigan loss, they really, truly have fashioned themselves a second half kind of team. And I joked about it on Twitter, but we saw it happen again. In this one, their run started a little bit before half, but basically in the final 32 minutes of the football game, they outscored Wisconsin 31-3. And the story was the play calling. Less about the run, more about the pass. In particular, less about those 10-yard hooks and square outs that they were running in the first half, and more about the bomb.
Lulling them to sleep.
F it, we're going deep, baby. Trace McSorley. So what do you have? 384 yards, 4 touchdowns. At one point in the game, he was 9 for 9 with 241 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged about 17.5 per completion. This is a really good game for him. A big-time national coming out party in a way that I think defined him as one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and certainly a contributor as we move forward now into 2017 with Penn State. People are excited about Trace McSorley.
you don't even need to do yards per completion. He had 12 yards per attempt, and accuracy had been an issue for him, but it was not against Wisconsin. And I do take umbrage with one thing you said. One of the better quarterbacks in the Big Ten does not give him enough credit. He is the best thrower in the Big Ten, period.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's my opinion. Yeah.
So this was an impressive win for Penn State, an impressive come-from-behind win. I thought Wisconsin looked pretty good for the most part. They obviously gave up a lot of big passing plays, which was uncharacteristic for them.
Wisconsin's defense had not seen a quarterback in a second-half offense, at least like Penn State's, and I cannot be stressed enough. A great, great story.
Let's go to the number one team in the country, Dan.
Yes, the USC Trojans.
That's funny. In the preview, we kicked around the possibility that Alabama might not try their hardest against Florida. They were basically a shoo-in for the playoffs, right?
And who even knew if they did? Knows if they did.
Can we be sure that they tried their hardest in this game, Dan?
Absolutely not.
You can make a case that they weren't trying and still won by 38 over Florida.
They tried. They tried very hard. But we have not yet seen Alabama in the back half of the season against a good quarterback. And we did not see it against Florida. And the cornerbacks had a field day. The Alabama corners with Austin Appleby and what he was not able to do after the initial couple drives. Alabama is just, you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. And that's what they did in every single phase. Eventually on the ground, they started stomping on them. I know they were pretty slow to begin with running the ball, but the defense generated so much for the Tide, and it makes it impossible as an opposing team to generate any sort of momentum or get into any sort of rhythm when you're throwing into not just teeth.
Yeah.
Is it sharks that have rows of teeth?
Yeah, I think it's the Sharks.
That's the difference. And it's not that their starters are so much better than every team's starters. It's that their third string is so much better than your starters too. And what are you supposed to do? You're not going to do it with Austin Appleby.
Can we focus on at least the first quarter? Because that was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Florida actually struck first.
Indeed.
They struck first. Gone are the halcyon days of no touchdown November for Alabama. No. 5-yard touchdown, Antonio Callaway. People are tweeting us. I thought you said they weren't going to score. We didn't think they would.
No.
We didn't think they would. So,
not like that.
Talk about a shot heard round the world. Florida scoring on Bama. This is a big deal. First quarter, I thought was actually pretty fun. Florida scores the first touchdown on the pass to Callaway.
Mm-hmm.
He then threw another one about 5 minutes later, but only to Minkah Fitzpatrick from Alabama. A 44-yarder, real nice run by Minkah Fitzpatrick. Bama then blocks a punt, runs that for a touchdown. The ensuing extra point was blocked and returned for 2 points by Florida to finish up the first quarter at 16-9.
Yeah.
After that, Dan, I haven't played this damn boat racing sound all year. And I figure what better time to play it than one final crock-potting, one final act of destruction for Vern Lundquist in his final SEC football game yesterday. Bama, from that point forward, goes on a 38-7 run. They hold Jordan Scarlett to 17 yards on 11 attempts. As a team, if you looked at the box score, Florida finished with exactly 0 rushing yards on 30 attempts.
And Alabama moves into the playoff as the prohibitive favorite to go home with more hardware.
Have we seen how big a favorite they are yet over Washington?
What would your guess be?
My guess would be...
It has to be double digits, right?
My guess would be about somewhere in the 7 to 10 range.
It has opened at 14 and has already gone up to, on one line, 15, on another 14.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
A couple touchdowns. And Ohio State, Clemson. Do you have a guess?
I saw that Clemson is a 3-point dog, actually.
Correct. Yep.
Which is a little strange. Okay. So Alabama wins. They are in. They are number one. The number 2 team in your college football playoff is the Clemson Tigers. They win 42-35. Did I call it or did I not that we would see a lot of Deshaun Watson on the ground in this game?
Well, you've also watched Clemson play football in big games.
I want credit.
You have all the credit. Obviously, Clemson's coaching staff was listening to the show and said, that tie was on to something.
I can send you a Dabo, I can send you an MP3, whatever format you require.
This is true.
This one's a shootout. A lot of of points in this game. Quietly, a very fun game to watch that might have been a bit overshadowed by the other one, but a good game. Tech very easily could have mailed it in after going down 21 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, but they didn't. They actually had a chance to pull even in the final minutes, Dan. My initial thought while watching this game was that Clemson had this one pretty well under wraps. Like, they were in control for most of this football game.
Right.
Like they were in any real danger of losing. But then I saw a play on like 2nd and 20 with 4 minutes left where Clemson was deep in their own territory, and it seemed like they needed to make a play to try and extend their drive, and they ran a super conservative quarterback draw. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh boy.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here? All of a sudden, they need to punt. It's a high punt, doesn't really go anywhere. Virginia Tech gets the ball at the 41-yard line.
Which is something going conservative at that moment. That's something we've seen from Dabo and Clemson.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, okay, now all of a sudden, Tech's got the ball, around 4 minutes left. They've got one final drive to get it done. They move the chains a little bit here and there. Suddenly now I'm feeling, all right, this could kind of be a real thing. Mm-hmm. Clemson stops them. They preserve the W, but definitely a hard-fought victory for them. And I thought a good showing for Virginia Tech, to say the least.
Yeah, it was a very good showing for Virginia Tech, and I think the big takeaway from this game, well, there's a few of them, but one, Virginia Tech's ahead of schedule.
Oh, yeah.
That
big time.
They already look like a top 12 to 15 team. I don't know what they finished it in the rankings, but they look to be, and I know Gerard Evans is a JC transfer, so I believe he'll be back, but they look like they will give teams in the ACC and beyond a lot of trouble, and should threaten double-digit wins consistently if they play like this throughout the tenure of Justin Fuente. The other thing is, when Wayne Gallman cannot get going, it is very difficult for Clemson to get comfortable consistently away from decent teams, like Virginia Tech very much is, and more. Deshaun Watson was fairly clean, did not succeed a ton downfield, and that's the credit of Virginia Tech's very good defense and Bud Foster's blue collar lunch pail defense.
You got to get lunch pail in there, yeah.
Got to get lunch pail in there, but just an impressive performance from Clemson. They made plays when it counted. They had the interception to seal the game, and stopping this Clemson receiving core is not an easy task. It just, between Mike Williams, Deion Kane, Jordan Leggett, whoever, it takes a very good defense, and I still feel really good about Clemson moving forward into the playoff, that they are probably the team that could give Alabama the biggest game, but really, really impressive to close the season out like this after starting out so sloppily.
I'd also add that Clemson's defensive line was just overpowering. And
yeah.
I thought totally outclassed Virginia Tech's offensive line. It wasn't all about sacks. It was about changing plays, about generating pressure on Gerard Evans for most of the game. That matters. And it mattered last play of the game as it did the first play of the game. Clemson was able to consistently get some pressure. So they win. Hard-fought win, I think a little closer than you might have thought if you watched the early part of this game. But a nice win for Clemson. They bubble up to number 2 now, and they will square off against Ohio State,
who surely played somebody this weekend.
Nope.
Okay, good.
Let's go back in time.
Okay.
Washington 41, Colorado 10, Dan.
Woo. This might be the boat racing time.
Want to play it again? Play it again?
Washington plays on a lake, Ty. Yes, I would love that.
So look, first things first. This game set the forward pass back about, 50, 100 years? How many years did it set it back?
It's a different era now, Ty.
Jake Browning's first 5 passes were so comically bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like a case of the yips. What? He couldn't even throw a spiral. They were like end over end.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the difficulties in trying to fully understand what Washington is and is not, because how many really good defenses did they play? 2, 1.5 over the course of the season. So it's very difficult to see what Jake Browning can and can't do in those types of situations. And Colorado with an excellent pass defense. Say what you will about Colorado's offensive struggles and their inability to stop the run at points in this game, but they lock people down, and Jake Browning struggled with that.
That aside, this was a dominant defensive effort by the Huskies. They held Colorado to 163 total yards. They picked off 3 passes.
Ugly passes, Ty. It was ugly, yeah.
Sefo Lufau got hurt pretty early in this one. He rolled the same ankle that knocked him out of that Michigan game. He did come back and play, but couldn't use his legs as much as he has in recent weeks. He wasn't nearly as effective. We both mentioned it in the preview show. The difference in this game was the running game. 82 total rushing yards for Colorado, 265 for Washington. Myles Gaskin got most of the work, but I was also really impressed by Lavon Coleman. He ran angry in this game.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a pretty significant argument that Lavon Coleman is the best running back on that roster, which is also to say they have the best 1-2 of running backs in the Pac-12.
Colorado finishes the year 10-3. Mike McIntyre, hell of a job. Washington, meanwhile, 12-1, Pac-12 champ. Just year 3 now under Chris Peterson. They are through to the college football playoff and a pretty hefty dog against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah, even if they get killed, I think you and I are on sort of the same page. It's better to be in the playoff and get killed than
totally.
Play a winnable game in a lesser bowl. When you go to the playoff, it is a statement both to the conference, to recruits and everything that you are the alpha dog of your region. And no pun intended for Washington, an unbelievable season for the Huskies, for Jake Browning, for Chris Peterson, for that defense, even without a couple of big cogs in Joe Mathis and Azim Victor. And just a tremendous season and story. And unfortunately for Washington, it was in a down Pac-12 and not enough people got to see Washington outside of that USC game.
Then the de facto Big 12 championship game. This one was yesterday, earlier in the day in Norman. 38-20, the Sooners went out over the Cowboys. Oklahoma State didn't put up much in the way of resistance, at least in terms of defense. 629 in total yardage allowed. A really impressive effort, I thought, for Oklahoma. Back and forth early. Was tied 17-17 at half. Oklahoma State did muster up a rushing attack, like we mentioned on Wednesday, with both Justice Hill and Chris Carson. What they didn't do, though, Dan, was anything through the air.
Yeah, that was the struggle.
Mason Rudolph, their best player, just 11 for 25. They never got Junkyard Jim or Jalen McCleskey going. They only had 4 combined catches for 66 yards, and most of that came on a 44-yarder. Oklahoma really just batting the hatches in terms of pass defense, and I thought that was ultimately what brought Oklahoma State down here.
Yeah, back and forth, but not tremendously exciting first half. 10 punts between the two teams in the first half. Oklahoma really not able to get much going through the air in the first half, and that is in large part to having what could be the best receiver in the country, and Dede Westbrook, leave the game and not come back with concussion-like symptoms. I believe that's what it was. And then shift to the second half and say, oh, we have Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. And let's just see if they can get to the edge. No, they can't. Okay, let's see if they can this time. No, they still can't. And then you just Xerox that over and over and over again. So they come out. It's the final drive in the second half. They score on a longer play. And then they open up the second half with a couple of touchdowns. And that was sort of that. If Oklahoma State was not able to adjust, they did a good job against the run in the first half. But if the Pokes were not able to adjust in the second half, Oklahoma should be and was all too happy to just keep running it directly by them.
Again, your final 38-20. Oklahoma's defense stepped up, and so did Baker Mayfield when he had to. 13 of 19, 288, 3 touchdowns. He did announce that he's returning for his final season next year.
Yeah.
Was there a whole lot of doubt around that? I couldn't really tell you, but he is going to be back, which is great because he's a lot of fun to watch and cover.
Yeah, I don't know how much more he has left to prove. He will I don't know if he's going to be a Heisman finalist by the time we release this. We may know, but he was last year. He put up video game numbers this year. I'd imagine that will continue next year. But hey, he likes playing for Oklahoma. Hard to fault him.
All right, we've got the MAC, the American, the Mountain West Conference USA, the Sun Belt, and 2 games in the Big 12, which we're going to run through here very quickly.
Yes.
But first, a word from our good friends over at Squarespace, Dan. They are sponsoring this episode, as you heard at the very, very top of the show, Dan. Whether you need a landing page or a beautiful gallery, a blog, an online store, you can do it all on Squarespace. It is an easy product to use. I actually just created a Squarespace page for somebody 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
A friend of mine's launching a business.
What kind of business are we talking about? You don't need to name it or anything like that.
Consulting business. Yeah.
Consulting. All right.
Use Squarespace. I said it's easy to use. It's going to give you something that's mobile ready, something that's easy to maneuver. You'll get a free custom domain. You'll get cool templates. You'll get commerce tools. I mean, I'm not even reading off the list they gave me. There's a lot of cool stuff here. Not everyone likes to get knee deep in the code. You don't have to with Squarespace. They give you beautiful templates that look good regardless of the device that you're accessing from. They also have customer support, which, as you know, if you're doing anything technical anymore, especially if you're building a website, you want to be able to email somebody. Every member of their customer care team is experienced using the platform, working in a Squarespace office, no matter how technical or trivial the question seems. Someone from the team is always online. They're always ready to assist you. So it's a pretty good deal. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com. Enter the offer code VERBAL, VERBAL at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your very first purchase, Dan.
That's a hell of a deal, Ty. I can't lie. I can't front and be like, that's pretty. No, that's a hell of a deal.
Where should we go next?
If we want to skip around quickly, we should mention that Alabama is not the only undefeated FBS team because row that boat. Western Michigan Friday night wins late against Ohio in the MAC championship game, and PJ Fleck and the Broncos complete an incredibly impressive season, going undefeated and find themselves in the Cotton Bowl. And it was not dominant, I would say, against Ohio, but they were able to force some turnovers. And hey, Western Michigan going from whatever it was, 1-10, 1-11 to 13-0. That's not easy. Unbelievable.
Not too shabby. Yeah, they win 29-23. Big game, by the way, for Corey Davis. This is a name that I want everyone to remember when it comes time to picking fantasy teams next year.
You heard it here, 85th.
That's right. He's going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
He's got the size. He's got the skills. He's going to be real good at the next level. And speaking of next levels, Dan, is PJ Fleck going to coach at Oregon?
From what I've heard, no. From what I've heard, I'd listen, by the time this publishes, could be incredibly wrong. It does not sound like he will end up in Eugene. But nonetheless, I'm confident Oregon will make some sort of bad hire. Kansas State ran all the hell over TCU. Not a good day in any phase for TCU, particularly not for Foster Sawyer Sailor Spy, who comes in. It was just, it's wizardry from Bill Snyder. 8-4, run over TCU. No Power 5 team in the state of Texas finishes with the winning record in conference play. So that includes Texas A&M going 4-4. UTSA and Houston are the lone FBS teams to go and win games more so than not in conference play in the great state of Texas.
Before you go on, you know what's unique about Kansas State's 8-4?
What's that?
K-State won 8 games without beating a single team that finished with a winning record.
I'm telling you, wizard.
Couple teams on there that went 6-6.
If there's a weird way to do something.
No team with more wins than losses.
Just an odd year.
Yeah.
In the mid-Southwest, whatever. I mentioned Troy losing to Georgia Southern after a super hot start. Troy has a chance at the end, but Georgia Southern at 5-7 takes the game. We got a huge shootout in Conference USA.
Oh, yeah. How about this one?
Western Kentucky, WKU, Jeff Brom with another ridiculous season. They beat La Tech, who's had also a huge year. Skip Holtz, I know you've got close, intimate, emotional ties to Skip Holtz.
Sort of.
A big, sort of. Here's the game I want to talk about in terms of conference championship. Just very briefly. Navy's quarterback goes down, Will Worth. Temple, and it's just the defense stomps all over Navy, a Navy team who would come in with incredible momentum. Temple, 10-3. Matt Rule, owl. It's a great year.
It was a great year. I need to play this sound.
He's already dead.
Man, what a beatdown here. It was over 2 minutes into the second quarter.
So much for the Navy could screw everything up if they beat Temple and beat Army.
Yeah,
that went away.
That went away very quickly.
Matt Rule will probably be coaching Temple next year.
I think he's probably coaching Temple next year.
And then that's probably it.
He's got a PJ Fleck quality to him that I think will be coaching somewhere bigger and more in the spotlight at some point within the next 18 months.
And this is also a Temple that's playing better teams than they ever played when they were going 2-10 every year, 2-9, whatever.
Totally.
So just it's under the radar because Houston got a lot of the group of 5 and then Western Michigan, but hell of a year for Temple.
You know who their first game is against next year?
Who's that?
Notre Dame.
Of course.
Just throwing that out
Can I take the points just like now? Well in advance? Can I get some money on that? Can I get action?
If you can, let me know because I'm in with you.
West Virginia, super ugly win over Baylor. But that was sort of to be expected. Quarterback play, a phrase we both like, less than ideal.
Yeah.
Less than ideal
good.
here.
Not good.
But Justin Crawford continues his just unbelievable few weeks. He had the 300 whatever yards against Oklahoma. He goes for over 200 against a Baylor defense. Arkansas State, quietly, I know they started 0-2 or 0-3 or something like that, but they finished 7-1 in the Sun Belt, and they finished that out against it's a bad Texas State team. Did you watch any of San Diego State, Wyoming?
I saw some of the highlights.
Did you see the punt?
I saw, yeah.
75-yard punt?
That was incredible, yeah.
You got to take the highlights where you can get them, but a very nice year for San Diego State. I know a couple weeks ago, disappointing loss, but they finished with 10 games, 10 wins, and win out in the Mountain West. So just it's quality all around. And even though it sort of appears like we're in a feudal time with Alabama just mowing everybody down, this year had secretly, and I use that phrase because I'm about to talk about the Pitt Panthers, a lot of really entertaining games and stories.
Big time.
And
big time.
Pitt is this year's Minnesota, was 2 years ago. The team that was never going to be in the playoff, but somehow affected things to an extreme degree.
Yeah.
So secretly relevant Pitt.
Yeah. They've changed the course of things here in 2016, Dan, to say the least.
I have two more things. I don't know if you wanted to just talk like as friends, but two more things related to college football. Because I'm always down for friend talk, Ty. I'm always down for that. You know that.
Go ahead. What do you got? What do you got?
We got a bunch of bowl games.
Yes.
If that's okay with you to talk about.
So here's the deal. People ask, how do you guys do it with the bowl games? What's the plan here for the verbal? Are you guys going to go off the air? We're not going to go off the air. We never go off the air. That's part of our problem. But we are going to be doing 2 shows a week all throughout December, all throughout really this whole postseason until we get to the national championship game. And then we're going to figure it out from there. We'll probably go once a week. But in the meantime, we will be previewing and talking about all of these bowl games. I don't even know how many there are, but we're going to be doing it in like waves of 8 or 9. And we will have a bowl confidence pool as we do every year. So if you'd like, just stay tuned to our Facebook page, our Twitter account, pretty much anywhere you can find us. We're going to post a link so that you can get in on that bowl pool and compete for fabulous prizes. So
fabulous.
With that being said, what kind of matchups are we looking at? You already mentioned like the New Year's 6. What else is on the docket?
So we talk about fans of quarterback play, and Ty, have I got good news for you? Come on, feel it. CJ Beathard, Austin Appleby, Tampa, Florida.
No!
Yeah, that's happening in the Outback Bowl. Louisville LSU actually is incredible. I'm really happy that this is happening because these are 2 really good teams. But again, we're talking about a Purdue transfer. We've got Georgia Tech, Kentucky, which, sure. No. Okay, great. At this time, I do not see who Tennessee is going to be playing in the Music City Bowl, but Tennessee is going to be in the Music City Bowl. So, a disappointment if you're a Tennessee fan.
Home game.
What your impression of this team probably was. It looks like North Carolina is going to be in the Sun Bowl, which generally is entertaining unless it isn't. We've had some really unentertaining games in El Paso.
Don't say that about the Sun Bowl, Dan.
I know. I apologize. I'm looking forward to the Alamo Bowl because we have Colorado and Oklahoma State. So that's inside. Hopefully we have a healthy, safe Alufau. Hopefully we have Junkyard Jim Washington against a really good pass defense. Virginia Tech, Arkansas. Man, I'm not particularly excited about how good the SEC is at their bowl alignments because, USF is taking on a team in the SEC in the Birmingham Bowl. We'll see what happens. We talk about the most secretly relevant team, Pitt, coming to New York. Who are they playing? Clayton Thorson.
Wow.
And the Northwestern Wildcats. Okay. Russell Athletic Bowl, I actually am looking forward to. Miami, West Virginia.
That should be a pretty good game.
I think Miami had an underrated season. They had a run of particularly poor offensive performances against the better teams on their schedule, but all in all, encouraging, especially on defense in West Virginia. Certainly puts up a ton of points in yardage. Baylor, Boise State in the Cactus Bowl.
That line might be 100, and I'd still go Boise.
Yeah, I think that's the right move. Would have liked a better matchup for Temple to see what they could do against a good team. And it's been a good year, but it's still Wake in the Military Bowl. Mississippi State and Miami of Ohio, which should be pointed out, that is Starkville against Oxford. Just Oxford, Ohio. That was Jason Kirk. I saw that there. Ohio Troy in the Dollar General Bowl. Louisiana Tech Navy, Eastern Michigan ODU, which is a matchup of really good stories. And they're playing in the Bahamas Bowl, which, listen, Ty, we have a Bahamas Bowl.
Yeah.
We have Colorado State, Idaho in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, if it's still called that. So some blue turf, and maybe the last time of blue turf for Idaho. BYU, Wyoming. I think that's going to be pretty good. Is it still San Diego Credit County Poinsettia Bowl?
I believe it is. Yep.
But it is the Poinsettia.
Yep.
Tulsa Central Michigan should be fun. That's in the Miami Beach Bowl. Houston, San Diego State. I love that this is happening. That's going to be in the Vegas Bowl. Is that still Royal Purple? Well, who knows? Toledo, App State is actually an excellent App State team against an excellent Toledo quarterback in the Camellia Bowl. That's in Montgomery, Alabama, December 17th. They just start earlier every single season. UCF, Arkansas State. Good story in UCF. They go winless in 2015. In Scott Frost's first year, taking on Blake Anderson and a good Arkansas State team. UTSA, a nice enough story against New Mexico and the fighting Bob Davies.
Yeah.
And finally, I have Louisiana. Louisiana Lafayette, Southern Miss in the New Orleans Bowl, also December 17th. So some teams going to be filling in. And should be noted, I did not use the word Oregon or the words Notre and Dame.
Surely you must have made a mistake. We'll have to go back over and add that in post.
My one other thing to you, Ty.
Yes, there's more.
We have, to this point, neglected to mention what I would say is inarguably your favorite part of the college football season, and we had some scholarship tosses yesterday.
Oh, yes!
And here is my opinion. You play to win the game. You don't get money for throwing the ball in a better looking fashion. Chest pass for life or move it back.
They need to regulate this. Need to go overhand.
What about just above the waist? So it's no underhand.
It needs to be, it can't be underhand and it can't be chest pass.
Why can't it be chest pass, Ty?
I don't like the chest pass.
You dunk your hot dogs in the water if you want to win the hot dog eating contest. This isn't a football throwing contest, Ty.
It is a football throwing contest. No. They're throwing footballs.
It's not a football throw contest. It is a
It's not a punt passing kick footballs. Is what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying.
What is Dr. Pepper's ad spend on a weekend like this, by the way? Because I don't see any other Dr. Pepper ads until conference championship week.
Whoa, that's not true. You watched Larry Culpepper and the stupid... I know his name because I've seen so many of their stupid ads.
Larry Culpepper, true story, walks around in full regalia at the media hotel.
Yeah, he'll do interviews.
He'll do interviews if you want to do interviews with him, too.
And you remember who the spokesperson for Dr. Pepper in college football was before that actor?
Was that Pitbull?
It was Pitbull, and we were all having a real good time.
Yeah.
And they had to go and ruin it. I'm totally okay with how they do it. And this also brings to mind, I am considering, and I'm going to tell you right now on the show, because there's no way I don't think she can make it happen. I think you might pass out if on your birthday, the solid wife Kate led you to whatever backyard area you have, and there was a giant inflatable Dr. Pepper throwing can. I think you would hyperventilate, and that would be the greatest gift that you would ever receive.
Yeah. I'd put that in my basement.
So that's what we have. We have the Dr. Pepper throw. That was the most accurate throw from the Florida side in the SEC championship.
Pretty much, yeah. I love those things. Those are the best.
Anything else?
No, that's it. That's all I got.
We got a lot to talk about in the coming few weeks.
We got a lot to talk about. As I mentioned, we are going to be going twice a week. We're going to preview all of these bowl games. Mm-hmm. Maybe not right before they are set to happen. Some might be a couple weeks in advance, but we are going to take the time to make sure we talk about each and every one of these football games. Mm-hmm. And we will be down in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Do keep it here on the Solid Verbal. Again, we've got a playoff. Your top 4 is Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and the Washington Huskies. Congratulations to all those teams and fan bases. Yes. Thank you, as always, for listening to the show. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand. Thanks again. We'll catch you in a few days. And by all means, stay solid.
Peace.